Hello, folks. Welcome back to this month's full moon tarot reading here at the Whole You. Um, I can't say I don't really know what to expect from this one. Sometimes I have like kind of an idea as to what might come up, just based on like the energies of the full moon. But this one is really interesting because this full moon is in Virgo. And when I was looking at the star chart, the thing that really, like, there was a lot going on, but the thing that really jumped out to me the most was that you had all of these planets like up in the community region of the star chart, and then the little moon was over in the other quadrant all by its lonely little self. And I thought that that was really interesting because Virgo is all about the sovereign self. It's about organizing, analyzing, and keeping what is helpful and releasing what is not helpful. It's associated, by the way, with the intestines. That's how the body will disseminate what is helpful and what is not. So this energy also shows up in our physical body. So I thought it was really interesting, this whole concept of the self versus the community, and also the thing around boundaries, like, really seemed like it was really important. It's at 27 degrees Virgo, and 2 plus 7 equals 9. So if we're into numerology, that is associated with the Hermit card in the tarot. And the Hermit card is also very much about the self versus the community. The hermit goes into the cave to gestate and to meditate and to amalgamate and to get those answers that really can only be found within. And I think it's interesting that sometimes I've heard some folks talk about the Hermit card, and they'll talk about how, like, the rest of the community is like outside of the cave, like, oh, what's he doing in there? What's he making? What kind of alchemical concoctions is he brewing up? Like, what's going on with the hermit? Is he just an old weirdo who just is a loner, or is he in there making some magic? And when he comes out, the rest of the community may benefit from the insights and the whatever it is that he did, insights and tools or magic or whatever it is that he did in his cave. When he comes out, he typically has some sort of treasure. And the thing that's coming to me around that, like, I had this like thing that just popped in my mind, is that what's really important, and I think this is going to come up in the reading, we'll see. What's really important about that analogy is that the hermit is not tied or attached to who can benefit or who values what it is that he comes out of the cave with, what his treasures are. So it's kind of like interesting. I'm wearing my pearls today because it's that saying from Jesus where you cast your pearls to swine, which I honestly really don't like that analogy. Like, I feel like it's like, dude, like, J-Dog, like, that's kind of harsh to call people swine just because. But I think the analogy is like, if folks don't have context or experience to be able to appreciate what it is that you have to share, then just let it go. Let it go. Don't try to, force it. Because a lot of disappointments and a lot of hurt can happen when we become overly emotionally tied to our own validation being tied to how a thing, right? Where we seek community, and as human beings, it's absolutely in our nature to relate and to want relationships. And then there's this other piece where we must find it within ourselves to validate and to honor our own sovereignty. I think it's one of those, it's like a surfboard, right? Like, never completely finding a balance. You have to just kind of feel out each circumstance as it comes. So yeah, it's also number 9, which is spirituality and completion. So there might be some things kind of be tied up, maybe some phases that might be coming to an end. Um, the other thing too with this spirituality and completion and the sovereignty versus personal sovereignty versus the community is the not good enoughs might show up. So don't let martyrdom or victimhood go find your people out of your cave after this, and you have you want to share, and you come out of your cave and the people who were there to meet you don't get it. Go find other people. Doesn't mean you have to throw them out of your life, but go find other people, because what you have to share and who you are is really valuable. We wouldn't be here and have the desire to share if it wasn't valuable. And I'm already shuffling the cards, so it must mean that it's time. I didn't really think about it, so it must mean that it's time to pull some cards. And I have the question in my mind is, how do we use this full moon in Virgo to serve our best and highest good? Typically, I go ahead and invite you to set that intention with me, hold it, but it seems like we're just going to go right into it. But please do hold that intention. How best can you use this Virgo energy of this full moon to serve your best and highest good? Just need at least one more card, please. There it is. All right, what do we got here? Interesting indeed. All right, so King of Swords comes up, and this is about being this is definitely about personal sovereignty. Like the King of Swords he owns his own power. He speaks his mind. He speaks his truth. He's not afraid to claim authority over situations and or authority over information, projects, and that he has the right to have authority over. So the thing that's coming to my mind around this is have you ever diminished how much you know, or diminished I don't mean to say confident, but how talented or gifted you are in a particular area simply because you want to make sure that other people aren't uncomfortable? Like, for example, being afraid of being a know-it-all, or being afraid that, that you're shining too bright and then other people might resent you for it. The King of Swords, because the next card, I'm going to just go ahead and tie this in. The next card is the Eight of Swords reversed. So the Eight of Swords, the lady that's in the swords, that's as a self-imposed prison. She's actually holding on to those ropes. And when it's reversed, it's like, it's time to let that go. If you have at all been diminishing your light, holding back, not speaking your truth, overly filtering yourself or limiting yourself in some sort of way because of being too concerned about how others are going to respond or how others are going to feel about what it is that you have to say or share, then that's no longer being considerate. That's actually self-sabotage. And quite honestly, that's indicative of really unhelpful codependency loops and patterns that a lot of really highly sensitive folks struggle with. So it's time to stand in your truth. It's time to speak your truth. What's really interesting in this card is he has two statues of angels in the background and the way that they're situated, it actually makes him look like he has wings. You see that in the background? What I get from that is the angels, high vibration beings, your guides, spiritually, you are backed, my friends. If you're afraid of being persecuted in some sort of way, the universe has got your back. It's aching for you to step up and to shine as bright as you're meant to shine. You are a star a star being in a physical body. Like, let that shit shine. And once we break out of that self-imposed prison, the Wheel card. What's interesting is that this is the card that comes right after the Hermit. So we have that Virgo energy that was number 27, and the full moon was 27 degrees in Virgo. And so here now, you, the Hermit, has stepped out of the cave. And as a result of the inner work, everything has changed. The Wheel card is about change. The Wheel card is right in the center of the tarot card, and it represents this tipping point of where we were to where we're going. And I wonder if that is the energy of this full moon, that there's a tipping point that's happening here for folks. And for some folks, this might be a celebration. For some folks, perhaps, we've dug really deep, and perhaps we're a little bit farther along around this freedom cycle that we're in. And maybe you're just going to bust out of the gates and it's going to be more of a celebration. But for some, the tipping point might be super scary and might even like physically hurt. And the reason why this, I think, is coming up is, we talked about Virgos associated with the intestinal tract. And so when we get upset, when we get nervous, when we get scared, a lot of folks will feel that in their belly, right? You get butterflies in the belly. If you get stage fright, usually we'll feel that in the belly, right? The body doesn't actually know the difference between fear and excitement, by the way. And that can sometimes be a helpful thing of reframing of like, I'm not so afraid, I'm just really excited. Sometimes our consciousness will buy that, and sometimes it won't. Sometimes it'll just be like, nope, I'm just scared shitless. Like, nope, not excited. And a friend of mine, Heather Rose from Free to Be Healed, hello, if you're watching this. She said something, reminded me when I was really afraid to launch the podcast, because this is very much the process that I was in at that time. She reminded me that when we're children, because a lot of this stuff is about inner child needing to be safe, right? Like the fear of being persecuted, being judged, being, made fun of, whatever. A lot of that times comes with the inner child being afraid of being bullied. And as children, when we're bullied, there literally is a danger in that, especially if the bullying came from the big people who are supposed to protect and support you. And as adults, however, when somebody on social media or another adult judges us or makes fun of us, we have a little bit more influence over our circumstances as adults. So even if there's sensation, there's no danger. So I offer you this, that if that rings true for you, if there's something that you've been wanting to do, something you've been wanting to share or shine in a particular way, and you've been holding yourself back because of some sort of fear, and if it's inner child related, if we're afraid of being judged, take a moment to just sink into that part that's feeling the fear and connect with that inner child and say, baby doll, baby boy, baby girl, baby, I understand that you feel a lot right now, and I got this. There's actually no danger. That has really helped me. And I have an announcement slash maybe it's an announcement, but it's also kind of like something that I'm sharing for the first time is this last 3 months, I've been working on rebranding, putting together my website, and this right here, putting together a podcast where I'm sharing things about my personal life that I've never shared, scared the living daylights out of me. Like literally a physical weakness would come over me when I would sit down to record my episodes. And doing this over and over again, every time that I was afraid, eventually, took a couple months, but eventually I'm at a point where now, instead of the fear, I feel more excited when I sit down. So it's a process, folks. Give yourself grace, because you've already gone through a lot. When the wheel card comes up, it means that we've already been through quite a journey. And what's next is right around the corner. And it's okay when we're in this type of this place in the process to take a moment to pause, to regroup for the next stage of our journey, because it's only halfway there. The wheel card is halfway in the tarot, so it's only halfway there. And I feel like I need to pull some more cards around this wheel card. Yeah, okay, so this is definitely kind of confirming even more what has already come through. In relation to the wheel card, we have the Queen of Wands reversed, and we also have the Prince of Wands reversed, which is the same thing as the Page of Wands in this deck. And I'm sorry, the Knight of Wands in this deck. And then we also have the Eight of Wands. So the Prince of Wands, this is the Knight of Fire, when he's reversed, means that we've pulled back the reins. We're not wanting to take action. And it came up with the Queen of Wands reversed. I always call the Queen of Wands Glinda the Good Witch of the tarot deck. And she has her black cat in her lap. This represents her shadow. She doesn't relegate her shadow to the closet. She doesn't tell it how it shouldn't be there or how it doesn't have the right to exist. You know, this is the parts of ourselves that aren't so pretty. It's the parts of ourselves that are afraid, that are sad, grief-stricken, unresolved, maybe unprocessed things, unmet needs. All of that type of thing is the shadow. This is also where we get the wisdom, because it's through the process of taking those shadowy parts and bringing them to the light of consciousness and loving them that we actually evolve. So her shadow is domesticated. She has a good relationship to it. And look at it's in her lap. She's loving on it. So she has a functional relationship with her shadow. And when it's reversed, it means that perhaps we're not loving on ourselves as much as we could. Perhaps we are falling victim to our fear and not as courageous as we can be. Because the Wands, right side up, when she's right side up, it is about courageous insight and using our wisdom for the greater good. And so both of these are reversed, which means that there might be some fear in play. We might be pulling back the reins. It's okay to pause, though, folks. We don't want to get frozen and petrified by fear, but it's okay to pause, because this is preparing us for action. The Eight of Wands is about action. It's about momentum. It's about travel and adventure. It's exciting. It's exciting stuff. So take a moment to regroup. Take a moment to love on yourself. And what's right around the corner is like going for the gusto. Sometimes you just got to just do it. And I think in the next few weeks, a lot of us will get to that point where we just do the thing that we've been aching to do, but have been too scared to do it. So cannonball, my friends. Take a moment to pause, take a breath, and then cannonball into the pool of life. The water is great once we get there. I have a friend, Evelyn, and she makes that analogy that you call the people that you love into the water, and like, the water's great, and then they jump in. You're like, oh shit, it's cold. You're like, yeah, but you get used to it. So it's gonna be okay. If you cannonball, it's going to be okay. It's a lot better than just to sit petrified by fear on the shores. So this full moon it's preparing us perhaps for some big things, some things that are really a big deal, either personally or maybe even publicly. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I have a really exciting announcement I just launched just today. Launched the new website of the Be the Whole You with just the letter U.com. The link will be in the comments in the description below. And the podcast is launched. I have my first 2 episodes already up and running. It's on all of the major platforms, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you listen to your podcast. It's Be the Whole You, just the letter U, which is the name of the podcast. The first 2 episodes are You a Starseed and Effective Energetic Protection. I will be launching a new episode every week. Sometimes it'll just be me and my story and my insights, and sometimes we will also have a guest speaker. So it is about all the weird and strange magical things that that are real. Like the next episode, for example, is going to be about your imagination and your intuition. What's the difference, and how do you use these superpowers for your greatest benefit? So it isn't just your imagination, folks. Like the ETs, the fairies, the dragons, they're all real. And if you've had experiences that you can't explain, I guarantee you there's other people out there like you. So please do join me on the podcast, and please rate, subscribe, follow, so that other people can have a better chance of finding it as well. Thank you so much for joining me here, and I look forward to seeing you back here in a couple weeks at Be the Whole You, where we will do our tarot new moon reading. Take care.